So on the bottom of Lamed Dalet Amud Beis. So the Mishnah has spoken about two marriages that happened, and they got mixed up with the wives, and big mess, and 4 chatos for each one. The Mishnah ended off that if they want to go back to their husbands, when they go back to their husbands, they have to wait 3 months in order to discern if the child they're born is going to be from the first from the wrong husband or from the right husband. You have to wait 3 months. That's called havchana usually. The word havchana, to be mavchin, to discern, to be able to discern, to know, shouldn't be a suffix who the child is. So the Gemara goes into sugi now. The Mishnah ends off if they're ktanos, if they were young, below 11 years old, as we saw that between 11 and 12 a girl could become pregnant. But if they're young, so then they're not possible to become pregnant. So there's no chash, and the Gemara is going to talk about that. Amar Shmuel. He was not talking about our Mishnah. He was talking about in general that a woman that there's a suffix if she's already pregnant when she gets married, she has to wait 3 months before. But there's an exception: a gioris or mishacharis katana. A gioris, when a woman becomes a gioris, and we're choshesh that she was mezana before, she was married before. So we want to make sure that the child that she's gonna now bear from a Jewish man is gonna be from that husband. It shouldn't be a suffix if she becomes pregnant right away, or mishacharis. If she was a shifcha that was freed, same problem that beforehand we're choshesh that she was mezana and she might be pregnant. So we wait 3 months. But if she's a katana, she doesn't have to wait. Katana means that she's below age and it's impossible for her to be pregnant. So there you don't have to wait. But the diak is, he just says about a mishkios and a mishacharis katana. He sounds like he's saying that they're the exception. They don't have to. But otherwise, women would have to wait. And he doesn't say any katana. He's mashbetafka gios and a mishacharis. But if it will be Israel, aval katana bas Israel, the diak of Shmuel would be that if she be a Jewish girl, doesn't have to, even though she's a katana and it's impossible for her to become pregnant, we would make a gzera and say, that the gzera katana to gedola, that sometimes usually a woman does have to wait 3 months in order to discern if she's pregnant or not before she gets married. So katana also, that would be the diak over here. Again, Shmuel said that a gioris and a mishachreres, well, if she's a katana, she doesn't have to have the 3 month waiting period. But the diak is that if she'd be a Israelist, a Jewish girl, even though she's a katana, it's impossible that she's pregnant. But they made a low plug like a gzera. That will be the deal. We'll get into that more as we're going to go back to our Mishnah again. Our Mishnah says something about a katana. So we'll see soon. First, the Gemara wants to know what Shmuel's talking about. With this diak that we say that Shmuel says that a katana bas Yisrael would have to wait 3 months. What's the case? How did she leave her first husband? We know that a katana, with the rights, she only can have marriage if the father marries her wife. If not, then she's only can have marriage Rabbanan. If the mother, the brother, or herself, if she got married, so it's only going to be on a Rabbanan level. And the way if she wants to, she could just be Mima'in. She refuses. She says, I want out. And the marriage is nullified, even the Mafreya. What's the case that she would need 3 months? Means, again, Shmuel was saying now a diak now, maybe also to highlight the diak. The diak is going to be Tanabas Yisrael, Shrichal Hamten Gimel Chadashim. That's what the diak is going to be. Since he said by Dafka by Meshachreres, so the diak is that the Jewish girl would have to wait 3 months. And the kash is b'mai. Even me and Bama Shmuel Lovaya. Even get Amar Shmuel Chadazimna. Shmuel spoke about this case already about a Ketana Bas Yisrael, and he said that there's a difference if she got miyun, if she gave miyun, she said I don't want, she wants out, and if she got a get, means the Ketana also could get a get. If someone married a Ketana, Kedushin Drabanan even, but he wants to divorce, he could divorce her. Miyun is mitzida, that she says I don't want, and she goes out and nullifies the whole thing. If he gives her a get, it's also a get. So Shmuel said that it depends how she got out of the marriage. If she got out of the marriage with miyun, so then she doesn't have to wait 3 months. And this Rashi says this far in the last couple of lines. Rashi says as far is Tein Gedola Yosef Miyun. There's no such thing as a Gedola going up a miyun, so you don't need a low plug over there. It's not confusing with a Ketana. If you say by Ketana miyun, she can marry right away, we're not going to make a mistake and say that a Gedola that gets a get doesn't have to wait 3 months. There's no mistake because Gedola doesn't have a miyun. But anyway, Shmuel said, if the way she went out of the marriage was because she says, I don't want, she's a Ketana, and she says, I don't want, she's my mind, so then she doesn't have to wait 3 months. As Rashi explains, because there's no confusion by Gedola, because there's no such thing as mean by Gedola. But if she got a get, she does have to wait. So now the Gemara is asking that what does Shmuel mean in this member that he said? Shmuel said 2 things, right? The blue is one of Shmuel's members. Miyun does not need, and get does need. And here, Shmuel said a different statement about a Giyos and a Mishacharis. From there, we were Medayek, that the Ketana Bas Yisrael has to wait. What's it talking about? If it's talking about Miyun, she does not have to wait. And if it's talking about a get, he said it once already. So the Gemara is going to say there's a third category besides a get and miyun. There's nus. that if she was mizana, that'll be the case. The case will be business. If she was mizana, she has to wait 3 months in order to discern if that znus caused the pregnancy. And even if she was a katana. All right, and that's the point. Even though she's a katana, it's impossible. But here there's a low plug already. That you can say that since there's like the Gemara continues, a gzeira ought to a gedola. Gedola, if she's mizana, you have to wait 3 months in order to make sure she's not pregnant. And if she is, we know who it's from. Because Rabbanan katana mishum gedola. That's how it comes out. Shmuel told us now. Well, we did all this just to figure out that that's what Shmuel meant. That a katana who is mizana has to wait 3 months, and now the kasha is going to be from our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said that she doesn't have to. That was the case of the Mishnah. If we scroll back to the Mishnah spoke about this mess, the mess that happened over there, the 2 marriages that they got confused with the wives, and it said that they have to wait before they go mafrish and also shlosh chadashim in order to make sure that if they're pregnant or not. And then it says that katanas don't have to wait, even though this is a case of znus. It wasn't intentional. It was a mistake. It was a big mistake, but it was znus. The mice was they were married, a married woman. Both of them got married. Then they switched by mistake. They got switched, and they both had relations with the wrong husband. So it says here if the katanas they don't have to. So this is a kasha on Shmuel. Now Shmuel, after we figured out what Shmuel meant, he said by znus a katana does have to wait a gzeira, even though there's no chash that she's pregnant. But it made a gzeira katana to gedola, and the Mishnah says only that. The Mishnah says that a katana does not have to wait. That's the Gemara's kasha. Is that true? Our Mishnah says not like that. But our Mishnah, if the girls who got switched around were katanos and they're not possible to give birth, so then you do go back right away. You don't have to wait 3 months. Kashan Shmuel. It was an exception. Our Mishnah is an exception. First, the Gemara doesn't like the wording. It's an exception. It never happened. It wasn't a case history. It just was a theoretical case. You're talking as if the case really happened and it was an exception. No, we don't mean that. That means it has a din of an exception. It means if it would happen, the reason why the Mishnah says if it would happen, it'll be mutter is because it's an exception. Why is that? Because chiluf lo shchiach. Told story is not a common case. If it ever would happen, they wouldn't make a gzer that it's not a znus. That's a normal znus. Normal znus is a normal znus. Ba'onis or be'rotzon. But here that they switched. The whole case is so nashchich that they didn't make a gzer, and therefore they don't have to wait the 3 months. This was the first lashon of Shmuel. Again, just to sum it up, Shmuel says by znus, a katana would have to wait 3 months, even though it's impossible that she's pregnant because of a low plug, like a gezerah, katana or gedola. But no, gezerah. Even though in this case she's not possible to be pregnant, but we made a gezerah that after znus, they have to wait 3 months in order to, even though this particular girl cannot become pregnant, they said don't make across the board a katana or gedola. And our Mishnah is an exception. Our Mishnah that where it says that a katana does not have to wait is because the whole case is a crazy case. So they didn't make the gzeira of a katana to gedola that the wives are going to get switched. So there they didn't make the gzeira, and over there she doesn't have to wait 3 months since Lamai says she's not going to become pregnant. There's another whole version of what Shmuel said. We start the Gemara again. Amar Shmuel. But here the word is gedola. In the first lashon the word was katana. And that the whole Gemara started off saying, so the diak is that a katana of Bas Yisrael would need. Here he talks about that a Meshucheres and a Gioros Gedola don't need, which is a big kasha. Why not? They're Mazana before they became a Gioros and a Meshucheres. Because it could be the word Mazana. And he still says that they don't have to, or they're married also could be, and it says that they don't have to wait. So that's going to be a question. But right now we go back to the sugya of katana. What would the dig be? Of katana, Bas Yisrael, and according to this version, he didn't speak about a katana. So katana stays the same. That a katana only a gedola we talk about needs, but a katana Bas Yisrael would not need. And now we go back to the Gemara before. Now it's going to be very nice. Now it's going to be smooth. That a katana Bas Yisrael does not need, and we know already get does need, and Mian does not need. As Nus, he's going to say now that also does not need, and that's good with the Mishnah. The second version is smoother as far as our Mishnah goes. And the question again is B'mai. This is a repeat of what I had before. Even Mian, before the guess was the opposite, but here the facts stay the same, that Mian does not need, and get does need. And here it's going to say that Shmuel saying over here that a katana does not need, by Mian, he said at one time, get. On the contrary, Shmuel says you do need. I'm become a Shmuel the Baya. She does need a get. She does need to wait 3 months if she got a get, because of a gezerah to a gedola. The same quote as had before from Shmuel in the blue, same quote as before. So why is Shmuel telling us over here, according to this new version, ela b'znus. Again, it's talking about znus, but here, according to this girsa, he's not saying znus does need to wait. He's saying znus does not need to wait. That's the difference between the two girsos. In the first girsa, the first version of Shmuel, he said a ketana by znus Yisrael does have to. And then we're going to say the Amish is an exception. According to this version, he said the opposite. He said that only by Gedola, but by Ketana, a Ketana does not need by Znus. And why? Because Znus Ketana lo Shchiach. The whole thing of Znus is not Shchiach by Ketana, and therefore they didn't make the Gzeira on Ketana. They didn't say Ketana to Gedola. That's really the end of the sugya. As far as we don't make the Gzeira Ketana to Gedola, that by Ketana it's not Shchiach, saying it's not Shchiach that she should be Mezana. And therefore, even though, and she's surely not pregnant, she's also surely not pregnant, she didn't make the Gzeira. So that's really
not about mamzeres, no.
She's not going to become. She's not pregnant. She's not pregnant. So the end. That's really the end of the sugya. What's the get to our Mishnah? Our Mishnah said that a ketana, since she came to become pregnant, you don't have to wait 3 months. But we had 2 gersos now. If that's a regular din, or that's an exception. According to the first gersa, a ketana bas Yisrael that was mezana does have to wait 3 months. A gzeira to gedola, and only our Mishnah is an exception because it's a crazy case. And in the second version, that's the regular law that a ketana bas Yisrael business does not have to wait. Again, if she got a get, she does have to wait, and if she had me, she does not have to wait. And it's nus the two lashonos in Shmuel. If she does have to wait, and Amish is an exception, or she doesn't have to wait because there one goes there by ketana to gedol. The rest of the Gemara goes to explain this new lashon of Shmuel that it says that even a gedola, gedola do not have to wait. Why not? They could become pregnant and they're going to get married. They're going to become a gaya, or she was free. The shifra was free. She get married and she'll become pregnant. We don't know who it's from. How come he says that she doesn't have to gedola? He was talking about a gedola again, a new subject, gedola, and he says that she doesn't have to be with to wait 3 months. Doesn't make sense. Why not? Where does he get it from? That's the more kasha now. Giyores u'meshacheres l'shchiach b'uznus ligzar. So the word ligzar is a little bit confusing. It doesn't mean ligzar to Yisrael. It means that you have the regular problem that she could become pregnant, so you should make the gzera of waiting 3 months in order to discern between if she was pregnant already before the gior, or she became pregnant now with the new husband. That's the more kasha. What does Shmuel mean to say that a gioris and a mishacheres don't have to wait 3 months? Why not? The answer is Udom Rabbi Yossi. This really is an issue between Tanoim and Shmuel's passing like Rabbi Yossi. What's that all about? The Tanya. Hagiores, maybe just to highlight it a little bit to get Hagiores, Vashvuya, Vashifcha, Shenifdu, Shenishgaru, Shenishtachu. That's the case over here. The Hagiores, who became a guy or a Shvuya, someone who was captured, a woman who was captured, a nice Jewish woman, but she was captured, and the captors could be Mizana, and a Shifcha that was freed, because there was a little different. Hagiorish and Esgaira, Ashvuyash Nifdes, and a Shifcha and Eshtachra. So they have to wait 3 months. So comes the Machlokis. Tzmichas Lamten Gimel Chadash and Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosem Matelos and Lasamiyad. Rabbi Yehuda holds you have to wait 3 months in order to discern if she's pregnant. And Rabbi Yossi says you don't have to. They get married right away. And the Kash again, as a Shmuel is like Rabbi Yossi. So we have to understand, where does it come from? We still don't understand it. It could be they're pregnant. How come we don't have to wait 3 months? My time of the Rabbi Yossi, where does it get it from? A woman who's Mazana, she doesn't want to become pregnant, so she uses contraceptive. So in the Gemara talk about contraceptive that she meshes b'mok. She uses some kind of a cloth in order to absorb the semen that she shouldn't become pregnant. So she makes sure she doesn't become Mazana, she doesn't become pregnant. So the reason why so at this point there might even be a Jewish woman also. A Jewish woman also, Rabbi Yossi will say, doesn't have to have faznus, would not have to have if it's a marriage. So then she does have to. But here talking about znus.
Yeah, but the shvur, she's captured, so she.
Oh, so it could be the Gemara going to talk about that also. Or it means that she'll take out the zera. She makes sure that she doesn't become pregnant. The Gemara will talk about another way also how to have a contraceptive, so to speak, and then she'll also take worry in order to make sure she doesn't become pregnant. So that's the Gemara's answer. Rabbi Yossi holds that by znus, she doesn't want to become pregnant, and therefore she goes to the trouble to make sure she doesn't become pregnant. Here it says Meshemeshes B'mo. So that's what the Shmuel is going to hold. But there's a big difference. Rashi just points out that Shmuel holds by a Jewish woman, she would have to. How about a Jewish woman? According to this reasoning, and not after by Yoris and a Shifra, even by a Jewish woman, Vesmazana. And that Shmuel doesn't hold. Like Shmuel is going to hold that there's a Gezerah Znus Atu Nesua, But by a goya, and he's not machmir because we'll see soon this Torah that a goya doesn't want to become even by nesua when she's megaya. She also doesn't want to become pregnant, even though she's in marriage. She wants to make. She's not going to be megaya before unless she makes sure that she's not pregnant. Let's see what the Gemara says about that. So Rabbi is a kasha that usually he understands that these cases of a Gioris and a Shvui and a Shifcha, I can understand why they are precautious to not to become pregnant. The Gioris, she knows she wants to become a Gioris a couple of months before, and it's not on a second that she decides. She knows for a few months she wants to become a Gioris, so she's going to make sure that she's not Mazan, and if she is, she'll make sure that she's Meshemeshes B'moch in order to not to become pregnant. She wants to know the child that's going to be born. She herself wants to know if it's going to be a Jewish child or it's from the Goy. I mean, yeah, if it's going to be from before she was Megaya, after she was Megaya, so she surely will make sure that she's not going to become pregnant when she gets when she's 3 months before that she's Megaya. And a Shvuya and a Shifra also, the Gemara says that they know beforehand that their master is planning on freeing them. I don't know if it's always like this, but the Gemara says, okay, I can understand that enough times it happens that Shami Mimarayu Mintin Nafshai, they hear from their master that they're planning on freeing them, and therefore they're going to make sure they don't become pregnant because they're hoping for freedom, and they're going to want to know if they don't want to make a mess up if the pregnancy is going to be from their captivity or from their slavery. The Gemara is the case here that she didn't know. It was by surprise that she was freed. What's the case? A Shifcha Kanan, that she goes free if the master by mistake, even by mistake, if he knocked out a tooth or an eye. And she didn't know that. The master wasn't planning to do it either. It could have even been by mistake. And she goes free. And there the din is also, basically, she doesn't have to wait 3 months. And over there, she didn't know to make this precaution not to become pregnant because she didn't know she's going to go free. So that's the kasha. Rabbi Yossi said that a shifcha shnei does not need to wait 3 months. And so far we understand if she knows she's going to be freed, she'll make the precaution not to become pregnant. But if she didn't know she's going to be freed, then she should have to wait. And Rabbi Yossi also doesn't have to. And that's the kasha we don't understand Rabbi Yossi yet. Maybe Rabbi Yossi Taka's moda that if it happened by itself, Mamela means that she didn't know that she's going to be freed. Maybe Taka Rabbi Yossi's moda she has to wait 3 months because she didn't know to make this precaution to have a contraceptive. It's not true. But this is even talking about a Jewish girl that Rabbi Yossi says that if it was nus, she doesn't have to wait. Anusa mafuta, anusa means rape, and mafuta means she was seduced and she agreed to it. Both cases of nus. And here, Yudel, she has to wait because she might become 3 months in order to discern if she's pregnant or not. Rabbi Yossi says that she doesn't have to. So this is the first somewhat a Jewish girl over here, and it says nus does not have to wait. And the kasha is why not? And especially by a shifcha also, the kasha would be she didn't know, shein v'ayin. But why does Rabbi Yossi hold that she doesn't have to? She didn't know to take the precaution beforehand. So this is another way of the Gemara talking about a contraceptive. Before it was talking about Meshemeshes B'moch. Here it says that she turns over. I don't know. After Bia, she'll turn over. After they had a relation, she'll turn over in a way that the zera is not going to be conceived. I don't know. I don't know how that works, and I don't know medically how it works. I'm sorry.
So to avoid the injury.
No. It doesn't mean that. It means that they had a bia and she's misapach in order that it shouldn't conceive. So I don't know how medically how that works. But the Gemara says it's possible even after the ma'isa bia, it's possible that she should cause that she should not become pregnant. That's the reason why anusa and mafuta, even anusa, the kasha was anusa. Mafuta, if she knows she's seduced, it could be also that she's gonna mishemeshes b'moch in order not to become pregnant. But by Anusa, she didn't know. She was raped. And here the Gemara says it's possible for her to cause that she shouldn't become pregnant even after the Ma'aser Bia by being Misapeches. And that's the reason why Yossi holds that she's not choishes for her being pregnant. The kasha is shein v'ayin. She didn't know. She was mazana, whatever it could be, and then she didn't know that 5 days later her master was going to knock out her tooth. So it has to answer the kasha. So Rashi says that since it's so easy, Rashi answers it's a kasha. Rashi explains that since it's easy for her to cause this contraception, the hipoch kalula. It's easier for her to do it. Ein botorach. So mesapechasi the cholisha mazana ein rivosila saber. Anytime a woman does the mazana, she doesn't want to become pregnant, so therefore she will do this precaution in order not to become pregnant. End of the Gemara. What happened? The first Gemara talked about a Ketana, and we have over there Ketana Bas Yisrael. Ketana can't become pregnant, but by Giora, surely we're not going to be goes over there. By Yisrael, there were two versions in Shmuel. If Shmuel goes there by Ketana Bas Nus, by Ketana Bas Yisrael, the first lesson says not. I'm sorry, the first lesson says yes, but our mission was an exception because it was a crazy case, and it's not Shchiach. The second lesson says that whenever it goes there by Ketana. The second lesson the second point of the Gemara talks about a Gioris and Znus in general. They have to wait. Machlokas is Tanam already. Yehuda says yes. Rabbi Yossi says not. The Gemara says Shmuel holds like Rabbi Yossi, but only as far as a Ketana. But by Gedola, that there is that he doesn't say like Shmuel, like Rabbi Yossi, as far as Rabbi Yossi is very extreme. Here Rashi says Umiya b'Yisrael is Gaza Shmuel's Nusatu Nesu, and even though he holds like Rabbi Yossi that she's Mesapeches Kadesh Lo Tesaber, but by Yisrael, Shmuel doesn't hold like Rabbi Yossi, and he holds a Gzeira's Nus Atu Nesun. By Nesun, she wants to become pregnant. By Nus, she doesn't want to. He made a Gzeira. It doesn't look like Rabbi Yossi is not Gozer at all. But by Gioris, even Shmuel was not Gozer. He wasn't Gozer's Nus of Anachus Atu Nus Atu Nesun of Anachus, because even Rashi says even by Nesun, even when a Goya is married, if she knows she wants to become a Gioris, she already takes the caution not to become pregnant in order that she should know the child born if it's going to be Jewish or not. The next Gemara, the end of the Mishnah said, the last Mishnah of the parak, it said that this case where the wives got mixed up after the marriage, two husbands, brothers, sisters, they married and then they switched wives by mistake, so they're chai pochatos each one. But then it says, if they're kahanos, they're apostle from kuna or truma. So this was a mistake. It was an onus as a mistake. But it says if they're kahanos, apostle from truma. The question again is apostle from truma, apostle from kuna. Yes, because that would be as nus. It was the BS nus. So just to zoom out a second, the word kahanos means a bas kohen. It doesn't mean an Eishes kohen. And we know that an Eishes kohen, if she was Nensa, she's also to her husband. The Eishes Yisrael, if she was Nensa, she's mutter. Only if it was berotzo, and then she's also to her husband. But Eishes kohen is also to her husband, even if she was be'onis. So the word kahanos is strange. The word kahanos means a bas kohen. It doesn't mean an Eishes kohen. So the Gemara starts off kahanos in Israel is low, that she should be also to her husband is not tough if she's a bas kohen. It depends who her husband is. It does make a difference if the husband, if her father was a kohen or Yisrael. If she's married to a kohen, and this was a znus, even if it was honest, it made a mistake, but she can't go back to her husband anymore. So why does it talk about who the father is? So the Gemara makes sense. Kasha makes sense. We don't care who the father is. The word kanos means the bas kohen, and that shouldn't be the issue. The issue should be who the husband is. If the husband is a kohen, she can't go back to him. If the husband is Yisrael, she could because it was a mistake. So the Gemara changes it. It doesn't mean the daughters of Kohanim. Kohanim usually means the daughters of a Kohen. It means if they're the wives of the Kohen. If they're the wives of the Kohen, so then they can't go back to their husband, apostle from Truma, apostle from Kuna. And if they're the wives of Yisrael, so then nothing happened because it was honest. If their husbands are Yisraelim, right, so then it's not an issue to the husbands because they can go back. Because there was the Eishes Yisrael, that was a mistake. It was called Nensa. Doesn't make a difference if it's honest or a shogeg. She didn't mean it, so therefore she can go back.
She becomes a amen. She cannot get married.
That's true. That's what the Gemara is going to ask now. The Gemara is asking Kasha, the Shei Kohanim and the Shei Yisraelim lo. Why do you talk about if they're dafka wives of a Kohen? It's not true. Even if the wives of a Yisrael, it also has ramifications that she's always going to be apostle to a Kohen. The more you notice, you're special to you. The Gemara wasn't so special, but you're right. The following thing Rav Sheshes told us, and he illuminated our eyes from a Mishnah. Means he proved it from a Mishnah. The following thing: a woman who Eishes Yisrael, her husband is Yisrael, and she was raped, honest. So she can go back to her husband, but forever she's possible to a Kohen. If her husband is
honest, I only thought that it's by mistake that she might be, but by honest, I thought she can go back.
No,
even by honest.
Right. Right. But the point over here is that even right now, if her husband's a Kohen, that's Pashut. Even if it was known, she can't go back to her husband. But here, the Chiddush is that even though right now her husband is a Yisrael, and she could go back to her husband, then after her husband died, she wants to marry a Kohen, also can. Since once upon a time she was Nanas, even though it was under her husband who's Israel, she's possible for forever. And also she can eat truma also. She gets married to, she won't be able to marry. Oh, isn't a get the truma? It's not a get the truma because she can't marry a Kohen anymore. So
No, but she might be,
and
she might be a bas Kohen.
oh,
If she is bas Kohen, she can't go back to the father. It would be eat by
the
the father's
truma.
side.
I'm a rabbi. Hakikaman. Hoy kanos nisuas liYisrael nipsalu min truma de bein nishayu. That's how the Gemara fits into the Mishnah. The Gemara's question was that if they're about, it's the first thing about being, if the husband's a Kohen, it doesn't make a difference if the father's a Kohen. And if they say the issue is if the husband is a Kohen, so then it also doesn't. It's not only if husband's a Kohen. Even if the husband is Yisrael also has ramifications on the wife of Yisrael that she's pasal tekuna. And the Mishnah means to say if they were daughters of Kohanim married to Yisrael, they're pasal from truma. If they want to go back to their father's house, that means that if the husband eventually died, a bas Kohen, whose husband eventually died, she goes back to her father's home and she can eat truma again, but she won't be able to because she was nanas. And also she can't marry a Kohen anymore, as you said before, she can't marry a Kohen. That even though she was married to Israel, and she can't marry a Kohen, she can't marry a Kohen anymore, even if the father was Israel. There's no issue if the father's a Kohen or not. But here there is an issue that usually a bas Kohen, even though she married to Israel, she'd be able to go back to her father's home if her husband divorced her or died, and she'd be able to go back to her father's house to eat truma. But here she can't because she was nanas. Once upon a time she was nanas, even though she was at that time Eishes Yisrael, she can't go to truma anymore. Next parak, fourth parak, hacholetz. Hacholetz leivimto. Venim says muberes. A man gave chalitza to his yivam. His brother died without children, so he gave chalitza to his sister, his brother's sister. But then it comes out that she was muberes. She was pregnant from her first husband. No, this wasn't so terrible. It's a problem, but it's not terrible because only it was chalitza. So if it were even, that would be a big problem because it comes out that he had relations with his brother's wife for no reason. That's chayiv kares. That's the next case in the Mishnah. But this case is hacholetz leivimto. He gave chalitza to his brother's wife, and then she comes out that she was pregnant from his brother, from the dead brother, and then she gave birth. So it depends if the child is going to be Vlad Shel Kayama. That means that's going to, how do you say that? Vlad Shel, he lives. He's a surviving baby. He lives. And the other case is going to be he's not Shel Kayama, means that it was an Ephel. It was a miss.
She had to wait for the baby to at least 40 days. 30 days is called Kiyum. 30 days.
You mean 30 days? 30 days. But the other case was, there wasn't a mission we're going to talk about, was he an Ephel or not? Ephel means he died within 30 days, and that's called he never was a child. And if he lived 30 days, then it's not an Ephel anymore. The other cases also, you can know there's not an Ephel. But anyway, it says that it comes out she was pregnant, so the whole thing was a mistake. It shouldn't have been chalitza. If the child lives, that means that there was no yibum, and there was no yibum necessary, and the chalitza was a nothing. The chalitza is just to delete the chalitza. There was no chalitza. The whole thing was a mistake. So he's mutter to her relatives. She's mutter to his relatives. Means if it would have been a real chalitza, so then he's asked him to marry her relatives from now on, and his relatives she can. And also there'd be chalitza is not allowed to marry a Kohen anymore. But this chalitza was nothing. Erased the chalitza. There was nothing. It was a mistake. She was pregnant, and then she had a real baby that lives. So then the whole chalitza was a nothing, and deleted as if there was no chalitza. He's mutter to marry her relatives. She's mutter to marry his relatives, and she also could marry a Kohen because she never got chalitza. Ein of Lashel Kayam, but the child did not live, it was a Nefel. So then it comes out, L'chora it's going to say here that it was a good chalitza. The Gemara is going to talk about it at length, but we'll take it at face value that it seems to say that it is a good chalitza. Who also bikrova seh, v'yasu bikrova, but pastor manakim, then it's a good chalitza because the Ma'aser of Vlad, even though she was pregnant, but it was a nothing, it didn't live, and therefore he is also to her relatives as if he would have been a grusha, would have been a chalitza, and she's also to his relatives, and she's puzzled to it because she got chalitza. It doesn't say beferish that it's a good chalitza. It doesn't say that. It just says that he can marry her relatives, she can marry his relatives, and she's possible as if it will be a good chalitza. But it doesn't say those words beferish that it's a good chalitza. We'll see more in the Gemara.
So if a woman has a dead baby, then there's no way you go just as long as the baby comes out.
No, that's what it's saying the opposite. It's saying the opposite. It's saying that Ein Vlad Shel Kayama, the Mishnah differentiates between Vlad Shel Kayama and not Vlad Shel Kayama. Does the baby live or not? That's what it's saying.
Right.
It's saying that if the baby lives, then there was no yibum necessary. But if the baby does not live, so then there was yibum necessary. And then the chalitza is a chalitza. That's what the Mishnah said. It says here, Vlad Shel Kayama,
So
and then it says,
we wait for the baby to live for 30 days, and then
it says that then it comes out that it was a good chalitza.
Right.
That's what it seems.
Okay.
That
But
is-
regularly, then he wouldn't even have to, if we see that she's pregnant and she has a baby, then he doesn't have to give her chalitza. She had a baby.
it depends if the baby lives.
Yeah, if the baby lives after 30 days and he's finished with him, then.
Right. That's what it said. That's the mission says. The mission says, but so then the chalitza was nothing. Even though they did chalitza, it's
So
nothing.
we need to know.
Because there's no need to.
But if the baby dies within 30 days, then he can.
Then it wasn't a baby.
Right.
And it's if he has no children.
More.
Right. And now the mission says a serious case. Hakonis is evimto. The first case wasn't so serious because it was only chalitza, but here he had relations with her. He did yibum, and then it comes out that she was really pregnant from the first husband. So the yibum was not a yibum, and it was a brother's wife without a mitzvah of yibum. Big problem. So bisman she'avlad shel kayama yotzi v'chayav b'korban. If the child lives, so then he divorces her because he has not divorce. Doesn't need a divorce. It wasn't a marriage in the first place, and the chayav b'korban because they had relations with the brother's wife. No mitzvah of yibum. The main of Shel Kayama, so then the Pasha sounds like there's a mitzvah of Yibum, and he keeps the wife because it's a good Yibum. That's what it sounds like. How about Suffolk? Suffolk with Tisha Labish and Suffolk with Shiva Lachman. We don't know if this baby that's born, is it from the first brother, and it's a 7 month, that's always calls it, that it's possible to be born after 7 months. So if it's born between that time, you don't know, is it 7 months from the second husband or 9 months from the first husband? So you don't know. So what would you say? You don't know if it's from the brother who died, or you don't know if it's from the brother that did Yibum.
So we have to go.
You have to be machmir. What's the chumrah? Yotzi. First of all, he can't keep her as a wife because maybe it's from the first brother, and he's not allowed to marry her, so he can't continue with her. How about the vlad? What would you say about the vlad? So it says Vlad Kasha. So why is that? So it's a very beautiful chap over here. Why is the Vlad Kasha? Why is the child Kasha?
From the guy that died.
You don't know. You're not sure. You have a suffix. You don't know.
So we say,
So what would you say? I would have thought the Vlad is a suffix mamzer. So no, a Vlad Kasha. Rashi explains because manavshach. Because who's the father? Is it the first brother? So then he's fine. The parents had a problem that they had relations. They shouldn't have had relations because there was no chiva yibum. But the child itself was a child of the first brother. So fine, he's a kosher's blood. If he's a child of the second husband, that means that he's not a child of the first husband. So there was a chiva yibum. So then it's very nice. He's also not a mamzer. So it's beautiful, right? The Vlad Kosher Manavshach. Kind of is good. Yeah, the brother died without children, but he left his wife pregnant, and the brother had relations with her.
As a yibum.
Yeah, but they're not sure what the child is. Is the child from the first brother or the second brother? So we asked. So he can't stay married with her because with his brother's wife because maybe it's his brother's wife. No yibum. So Yotzi, he has to divorce her. But is the child kosher? Or is the child a mamzer? Is it a suffix mamzer? So no, the child is kosher. Because if he's a child of the first husband, so then everything's wonderful. I mean, he's wonderful. The parents the father and the mother shouldn't have had relations because he's not a child of his father gave birth. His father had a child, but he's kosher blood. If he's a child of the second brother, that means that there was yibum was in place because it wasn't a child of the first brother. He's a child of the second brother.
Yes, but he was not supposed to. But she was pregnant. He shouldn't have done.
Yeah. So his father shouldn't. His
second brother.
The second brother should not have had relations with her. But that's not his. That's not the child's business. The child was born of the first. So the blood is kosher. One of them. Here's the Rashi. The Rashi says Avlad kosher. Where's that? Where's the Rashi? Rashi manavshach Avlad kosher manavshach. Doesn't matter who he is. He's kosher blood because he's the son of the first brother. So he's kosher. Or he's the son of the second brother and he's kosher.
Well, then it would be
because then it would be Yibum, son of Yibum. Very nice.
But the problem is he doesn't know his father.
He doesn't know. That's a problem. That's a problem. He doesn't know his father.
DNA and by the way, don't tell him who the father. Today, DNA in 1 second.
The chayav and vashim tali. The parents, they don't know if they had a relation that's also not the chayav vashim tali. What's it then? If they had relations and they don't know if it's an avera or not, chayav chorus or not, so don't bring a chatas, but they bring vashim tali. That's all Hashem Tali means that you don't know if he did an Aveir or not. You don't know if he Machal Shabbos. So yeah, they don't know if they had the relation that they had. He has to give. He can't continue relating with her because maybe it says there's no Yibam. It's her brother's wife, but they're not sure. Maybe it was a good Yibam. So Chayav and Hashem Tali, they have to bring a korban on the suffix. So the whole Mishnah spoke about that they didn't know. Innocent. I mean, they should have waited. They didn't wait. They're supposed to wait, but they didn't wait.
3 months.
They didn't wait. And it's very connected to the sugya we just finished about discerning to know if she's pregnant or not. Here they didn't wait, and they did chalitza or yibum, and it comes out she was muberes, and that's the Mishnah. All the possible cases. How about if they do know? That's going to be the Gemara now. Itma choletz l'muberes.
They knew that she was pregnant, but they still did.
He gave chalitza and she was pregnant,
Oh, okay.
and then ipila, and the vlad didn't make it. She gave chalitza. He gave chalitza to the woman that she's pregnant, and it's not going to make a difference if they knew or not. Here the case seems to be that they knew. We'll see the Gemara, but comes out that she was muberes. The same as our Mishnah also, but the Mishnah's case, but Nim says muberes. I think it doesn't make a difference.
Then it doesn't chal if we learn by the last.
How do you know?
Because that was the last halacha. We
What
said
did you
that
say?
if she's pregnant.
We said it depended if the vlad shel kayam or not.
Right.
But here the Gemara is going to talk about the ipila. It wasn't a vlad shel kayam. It was not a vlad shel kayam. If you learn the Mishnah simple, the way we learned it, it comes out that it was a good chalitza, it was a good yibum. The ma'isa was an eifel, so the child didn't make it. So l'chari you'd say, even though she's muberes, but the ma'isa didn't carry through. So there's the chalitza should be good and the yibum should be good. That's how we would learn. I think that's how we would learn. Pasha, that's going to be Rabbi Yochanan. Rosh Lakish is going to argue. Rabbi Yochanan, she doesn't need a new chalitza. It says in Manachan, it says it means in the brother also that it's fine. It's a good chalitza. The chalitza was good, even though she was muberes. But lamaisa hipila. Rosh Lakish tzricha chalitza Manachan. She needs a new chalitza. It wasn't a good chalitza. Rabbi Yochanan Amar ein tzricha chalitza Manachan. Why? Chalitza is muberes shma chalitza. Ubias muberes shma chalitza. The Gemara goes in not only chalitza, bia also. Even if he had relations with her while she's muberes, if lamaisa didn't carry through, the vlad was a nefel. So then the bia is also considered a yibum. That's how the Gemara goes now. That Rabbi Yochanan holds that both chalitza and yibum, if the ibur, the pregnancy didn't carry through, so it's a garnished. And the chalitza is a good chalitza, the yibum is a good yibum. Rishlakish and both. Rishlakish and three chalitza menachin. Why? Chalitza is muberes loshma chalitza, bias muberes loshma bia. Even though it didn't carry through, but since at the time she was muberes, it's not a good chalitza, it's not a good yibum. The Gemara explains more, but my committee, what's the source of the machlokes? Ibai say makoi, ibai say masfara. Either it's a pasuk they're arguing and have a darshan, or it's going to be a svara. Ibai say masfara. So again, it did chalitza or yibum while she's muberes, but the yibum didn't carry through. Rabbi Yochanan said, if Eliyahu Navi would come and tell us that this pregnancy is not going to carry through. Right now, he tells you beforehand that this pregnancy that she's pregnant is not going to carry through. So, can she not do yibum chalitza? You know the pregnancy is not going to work. So that seems to be everybody agrees to that. So Rabbi Yochanan says, since that's true, that if you know l'chatchila that it's not a good pregnancy, you'd be able to do yibum chalitza even right now. So hashanami tegali muslim prayer. So now too, we didn't know at the time, but the ma'isa after the nefel was a nefel, so it shows us retroactively that yibum chalitza was a good yibum chalitza. Shouldn't be a difference. What's the difference if you know the chatchila you didn't know until afterwards? If you didn't know until afterwards, also retrospect, you see that it was a good chalitza and a good yibum. That's Rabbi Yochanan. You don't say this thing. It seems to be asking also that if you know the chatchila that it's not going to carry through, like Eliyahu Navi, he's also asking that it's a good chalitza and a yibum. But since at the time you didn't know, just later on you want to say since it was a nefel, so you see retroactively that it was not a good, that it was a good yibum chalitza. That you don't say. Since at the time you're doing it, at the time you're doing yibum chalitza, she's muberes, so it's not a good yibum chalitza. That's just if you want to know argument in svara. The arguing in a psukim. The pasuk says when it wants to say that to do yibum, it says that one of the brothers dies without any son. So the wife shouldn't marry out. The brother-in-law should marry her and give seed to his brother. So he doesn't have a son. So he doesn't have a son. This man doesn't have a son. He left a wife pregnant, but it didn't work. So there's no son. Check, look into it. The word ain, they dash like ayin and ayin, that look for it, means look for anything. Since right now she's pregnant and the pregnancy might carry through, that's enough to also. You look at that also. Taisha says over here, that's called that you look, if right now there's a pregnancy that's royalist kayan, so that's also that's enough to be what are we saying? That's enough. That what? So that's enough that it stops the yibum chalitza. Since right now she's pregnant, so that and that the Torah doesn't say to do yibum chalitza. If she is not pregnant, but if there's even a pregnancy which is royal kayim, the Torah doesn't stay on that yibum chalitza. Taisa goes on to say, of course, if the vlad after the vlad miscarries, So then you do have to do yibum chalitza. Rish Lakish is not saying that it's enough to pater. Surely not. But if the yibum chalitza were done while she was pregnant, that's not good enough. The Torah doesn't want to do yibum chalitza while she's pregnant, even if the pregnancy is not going to carry through. So that's we finish the machlokas. The rest of the Gemara is going to be now to bring proofs. But that's the machlokas of Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish. It's going to go tomorrow also. But so far, just to get the machlokas, the Gemara spoke about Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish if he did a yibum or a chalitza while she was pregnant and the pregnancy didn't carry through. Rabbi Yochanan says it's a good yibum, but it's a good chalitza. Rish Lakish says it's not. That's good so far to hold on to the machlokas. Moshe is good that they did a chalitza or a yibum while she's pregnant and the pregnancy didn't carry through. Rabbi Yochanan says that's a good yibum or chalitza, and you don't have to repeat it again later on. And Rish Lakish says no, it wasn't a good yibum or chalitza. You have to take care of it afterwards. Now the Gemara goes into proofs, and it's going to go back to our Mishnah. What did our Mishnah say? The beginner, Chalas Livimto, and it came out that she was Muberes, and it says, Ein Avlat Shel Kayama. This is the case of Hipila, that the Maisa, she had a miss. Who Asa B'Krova Seh, V'Yasu B'Krova, but Pasla Manakuna. It sounds like it's a good Chalitza. If he gave Chalitza to her while she was pregnant, and it didn't carry through, so it says that all the ramifications of a good Chalitza, he cannot marry any more her relatives, she cannot marry his relatives. She's pasla fakuna because it's a good chalitza. Doesn't that sound like it's a good chalitza? According to my opinion, that the chalitza he gave to her while she was pregnant is a good chalitza. That's what it says. That's why she's pasla fakuna because it was a good chalitza. But according to you, it's not a good chalitza. You, Rish Lakish, hold that the chalitza he gave to her while she was pregnant is not a good chalitza. So why does it say she can marry Kohanim? It's not a good chalitza. Shlaki says, really, it's not a good chalitza, and she could marry a Kohen. It's only a chumrah, only machmer. He's asked her relatives, he's asked his relatives. It looks a little bit like he did chalitza, but really he didn't, and you have to do chalitza again. So Shlaki says that the Mishnah is only a chumrah to do that. You look at it as if it's chalitza, but really it's not. A rabbinic chumrah that you have to do chalitza. That
the second chumrah, you do a second.
But you do have to do it again. With the rice, means with the rice is not a good chalitza. The chumrah is going to be to act as if it is a good chalitza that she can't marry a Kohen anymore, and he's asked to her relatives, she's asked to his relatives. That's the chumrah. The chumrah is to act as if it is a good chalitza, but really it's not a good chalitza. You have to do chalitza again. Again, Rabbi Yochanan is one who holds it is a good chalitza. Rish Lakish is the one who holds it's not a good chalitza. The Mishnah says that it has the chumrah of chalitza, that she can't marry a Kohen, etc. That's the chumrah. But with the Raisa, it's not a good chalitza, and she has to have a chalitza again. The same thing we learned us now, but some switch it around. That the terrace of Shlokah, she holds that as the Pashtus. The Pashtus says, notice, the Mishnah doesn't say Beferish that it's a good chalitza. The Mishnah says she's Pasal Benakuna. It doesn't say Beferish that it's a good chalitza. So in the first lesson, Rabbi Yochanan said, it's a good chalitza. And the Moshe says, no, it doesn't say that. It just says Pasal Benakuna. Dikadami is going to be the same idea, just switched around. Second wide line, Dikadami, Beferish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan, you say that it's a good chalitza. Ein levash al kayama, who wants to be krova seh, yasu be krova. The Mishnah says all these things that if the kid doesn't make it, so it has all the chumras. So why does it only say chumras? It doesn't say beferish that's a good chalitza. It just says the chumra that it yimachmer is a pasach chalitza that she can marry Kohanim, but it doesn't say it's a good chalitza. That's why it doesn't say she doesn't need chalitza, because she does need chalitza. You say that it's a good chalitza, and it's it shows that beferish that's a good chalitza, and she can go out. She doesn't need chalitza again. Amalei, so Rabbi Yochanan says enachanami really means to say that it's a good chalitza and she doesn't need chalitza anymore. Just because the Mishnah wanted to tell you chiddush in the Reisha said that if it is a vlashel kayama, even though he gave chalitza, the chalitza is nothing, and she can even marry a Kohen also. That's a big chiddush. Even though they did a ma'isa chalitza, they're not scared people are going to say that she got chalitza, not she marrying a Kohen. They realized that it was a mistake, vlashel kayama, and the chalitza is nothing. So they had to say the chiddush that she's even allowed to marry a Kohen. For that reason, it says in the Sefer also that she cannot marry a Kohen. But really, it's a ramsha chalitza, and she doesn't need chalitza again. That was kasha number one. And we spoke about the beginning of our Mishnah that spoke about chalitza, and this is muberes, and it was not a vlashel kayam. Now we go the second part of the Mishnah, another kasha. Also from our Mishnah. Ein avlad shel kayama yekayim. Here it talks about that he was kohen slivimto. He had relations. He did yibum. Then he found out that she was really pregnant from the first brother. So the Mishnah says yekayim. If ein avlad shel kayama, the vlad didn't make it. She was pregnant, but then they waited until she gave birth, and then it was a nefel. So yekayim, which Rabbi Yochanan says, means that's a good yibum. So it doesn't say it's a good yibum. What is it? Yikayim. According to me, it's a good yibum. That's why he says he can keep her, because it's a good yibum. It shouldn't say that he could just keep her. It should have said he has to be born again, because according to Rish Lakish, what happens? This case in a sefer where he had relations, he did yibum, but it wasn't a good yibum because she was pregnant. Even though the vlad is a nefel, Rish Lakish says no. Even if he died, it was a nefel, but the yibum that was done at that time was not a good yibum. So what are we going to tell him to do it again? To do yibum now, do yibum. You have to do yibum now. You didn't do yibum yet. Do yibum now. So I should say that. Why did you say Yikayim? Sounds like if he wants to, we can keep her. If he wants to, we can divorce her. It's like his regular wife. Rabbi Yochanan says, according to me, it's good. According to you, it's not a wife. You have to do yibum. So why doesn't it say that? So Shlakish says, Ma Yikayim, Yachsav Yibum. I'm sorry. Yeah. Shlakish says, Ma Yikayim. You know what the word means? That's what the taka means. Yachsav Yibum Yikayim. The losagi b'lapachi. The word b'lapachi over here. That it means. That's what the word means. Yikayim means have relations. Yikayim doesn't just mean you can keep her if you want to. Yikayim, if Yochanan learned that it means they're already married, and Yikayim means he can keep her as his wife. He can give her a get if he wants to. That's saying that it's his wife. But according to Rish Lakish, it's saying he should have relations. He should take her as a wife because she has no other choice. So here, Rashi points out that it's not once they had relations, even though according to Rish Lakish it's not kosher. It's not you have to do it again, but it's not a choice of chalitza anymore. Once he did yibum. Once he had relations with her, the only choice is to do yibum. Now do yibum. Then he wants to give her a get. He can give her a get, but he has to have relations now in order to have yibum. So that's the machlokes halalu in the Mishnah. And Dikadam is the same thing, same exact thing, just as opposite order. Rish Lakish was one on the offense, and Rabbi Yochanan is on the defense. Same thing over again in the backwards. Again, the case was that he did yibum while she was pregnant, and then it comes out that the vlad is a nefel. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, it was a good yibum. According to Rish Lakish, it was not a good yibum. So here, Rish Lakish is on the offense. It says, what does Yikayim mean? Rish Lakish says it means that he should have yibum. He do yibum now. Which means, the left sagi b'lafachi. According to me, that's what the Mishnah means. That if he did yibum while she was pregnant, even though she missed, was a nefel, so now, marry her now. You're mechuyev to marry her now. Because it wasn't a good yibum that he did while she was pregnant. But according to you, she's already married. What's the yotzi? What's the yikayim? But he should have said that if he wants to, we can keep it. If he wants to, we can give her a get because it's over. He did yibum, and now it's a regular wife. Enochanami. Yochanan says that's what it means. I did the Tana Reisha yotzi Tananami sefer yikayim. The Reisha where it says the Reisha of this case, the Reisha of the sefer, that it says that he had relations. He did yibum to this muberes. He didn't know she was muberes, and then found out that she was muberes, and the vlad was shel kayama. The vlad did live, so therefore, then it says yotzi. That has to say you can't have relations, can't continue anymore because it comes out that it's really the brother's wife, and he shouldn't have done yibum. So it has to say yotzi. So therefore, Taninami sefer yikayim. That's why it keeps the symmetry. It keeps in order to say yikayim that he could keep her. But really, what does it mean? That it's his full wife, and if he wants, we can keep her. If he wants, we can give her a get. That's what it really means to say. So we have this machlokus again about Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish. If the chalitza l'yibum that he did while she's muberes, if it counts, it was a miss that it didn't last. The love lashal kayama. Rabbi Yochanan says it's a good yibum, it's a good chalitza. Rish Lakish says no. One more kasha. This is going to be a nakat kasha. Meisvei hakam l'seshavimto. Let's take the slow because the more is going to say that it can't read the way it says it. These are the words of the brisa. It says a little bit more. It says in the brisa, hakam l'seshavimto. The name says muberes. Someone did yibum to his brother's wife, but then it comes out that she was muberes. Harezu lo sinose tzarasa. Here it talks about not her. Here it talks about the tzara, the co-wife. There's a co-wife also, two wives, and two wives of the dead brother. And yibum was done to one of them, and then it comes out that she was muberes. Harezu lo sinose tzarasa. The tzara shouldn't marry out. If the yibum was a good yibum, then the tzara can go. The tzara could go out. The tzara is free. But here it says she shouldn't marry out. Why? Shema Yehei Vlad Ben Kayama. Maybe the child is going to be a Ben Kayama. That's the reason why she should not marry out. On the contrary, that's the reason why she could marry out. If the co-wife is pregnant from the first husband, and then there is no chiyuv yibum in the first place, so she only can marry out. So it doesn't make sense. The price of the way it says doesn't make sense. If the Vlad will be a Ben Kayama, she'd be able to go free. The words don't make sense. You have to change the words now. Shema
Lo yehi.
Lo Yehev La Ben Kayama. Now what's going to be? What's going to happen if she's not a Ben Kayama? So she had Yibum while she was a Mubaris and it didn't work. And what does it say? That the Tzara can't marry out. Why can't the Tzara marry out? According to Yochanan, it was a good Yibum. That's the most kasha. He's not Kedai. That's kasha and Yochanan. He's not Kedai. I'm sorry. No, I didn't get it open. He's not Kedai. Bias Mubaris Mabia. You Yochanan say that it's a good Yibum. Amaylos and Asetzerasa. Why can't the co-wife marry out? Yibum was done already. She should be able to go free because her co-wife had Yibum. Because of this kasha, Abaya says that we made a mistake. Means if you look back to the beginning of the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan and Shlokish, they didn't talk about bia. They just spoke about chalitza. It was a little misleading a little bit. Means the Gemara started hachalis de mubaris v'pila. That was the machlokis. Rabbi Yochanan says you don't need another chalitza. Rabbi Shlokish says you do. And then the Gemara started explaining. Then it brought in bia also. We didn't ask for bia. We spoke about chalitza. And then it says Rabbi Yochanan holds chalitzas mubaris shma chalitza bias mubaris shma bia. That we didn't ask for. The Gemara gave us more than we're asking for. And the Gemara said according to Rabbi Yochanan, the bias mubaris is also shma bia. And that we just disproved us now. Now we disprove from this price that says that if there was a bia done while she was pregnant, it's not good. That's how shouldn't marry out. So Abaye says we made a mistake. Everybody agrees that the bia that's done while she's mubaris is not. Even Rabbi Yochanan agrees to that. So that's why this brisa makes sense. That Sarah can't marry out because the bia wasn't a good bia. Kifliki b'chalitza. The machlok is only b'chalitza. Rabbi Yochanan said b'chalitza is mubaris b'chalitza bia is mubaris loshma bia. Rabbi Yochanan says that even though bia is not good, bia is mubaris loshma bia, b'chalitza is good, and Rish Lakish's chalitza also no good. Rish Lakish said bia is mubaris loshma bia, chalitza mubaris loshma chalitza either. But it answers the kasha. He only had a kasha from bia. But bia, Rabbi Yochanan is more. We made a mistake. We said Rabbi Yochanan knows that a bia is mubaris is also good. That's not true. Bia is mubaris is not good. Only b'chalitza. Amalei Rava Manavshach. EBS mubaris shma bia. Chalitza was mubaris shma chalitza. EBS mubaris loshma bia. Chalitza mubaris loshma chalitza. He doesn't go for the difference. There's no difference. If it's good both for chalitza and bia. If not, not. The Kaimlan the chol ha'ola liyibam ola lachalitza b'chol she'en liban ola lachalitza. He brings this to show that it's interdependent. If it's good for him, it's good for chalitza. If not, not. So he's going to say the terms. Adkan. That's the end of the sugya for today. And just to sum it up, the machlokis and the Mishnah spoke about. The Mishnah is really the sugya of the Gemara also, but the Gemara says you can learn the Mishnah two ways. When the Mishnah says that there was chalitza or bia done to a woman who's pregnant, and it says, of course, then there's no question. The whole thing was a mistake, and she was no chiv even in the first place. The chalitzas are nothing, and if she got chalitza, she's kosher to la pasla manakuna. And in the case of that bia, and it comes out it was a mistake, so the chayiv v'korban rashim tolui, and of course he can't stay with her anymore. The vlad's kosher. The vlad will be possible also vlad be a mamzer. If it's, I'm sorry. The vlad is kosher because it's surely the from the first husband. Yes, so it wouldn't be a problem. But all that is when it's a vada. But the Gemara is talking about the case of ein avlad shel kayam. But the case of ein avlad shel kayam, in this case, so that's the machlok Rabbi Yochanan Shlakish. If it's good chalitza and a good yibum, good chalitza for sure. They're arguing about good yibum of Chok Sabay and Rava. But the Mishnah doesn't say before that it's a good chalitza. The Mishnah says the chumrah case pasla manakuna asa b'krova say asa b'krova, but doesn't say if it's a good chalitza. Rabbi Yochanan says it's a good chalitza also. Rabbi Yochanan says even you don't need chalitza again. It's a good chalitza and maybe even a good yibum. That's what the Gemara is talking about now. The sefer where it says yikayim doesn't mean yes, that's a good yibum, or doesn't mean that he has to have yibum again. Yikayim means have bia again in order to make it a good yibum. That's Rish Lakish holds, maybe Rabbi Yochanan also, and that's going to be tomorrow's Gemara. How Rabbi was going to explain Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, yashikach everybody. Thank you. Chag Sameach. And today's also Yom Tov, the afternoon is the time that we put the Korban Pesach, Asur B'Molacha, and the reason is because there used to be the Korban Pesach according to one shot, and it should be a Freilacha Yom Tov, happy Yom Tov everybody.
We're going around from Korban Pesach. Let me know, please.
It's going to be too late. You have to be a Manui.
No, it's too late. They still bring the Korban Tamid Shachar. It's too late. I think we missed it. No chance.
The Arba Shos.
No, you can't bring confidence.
Machlok Yosef was Arba Shos or until Chatzos, right? That's That's Hashem. We should be zocher to see the Beis Hamikdash with Inyana, being the Korbanos. And tomorrow night, Beis Hashem, what's a Yontif? What's a Shabbat? What's a Yontif? The shir should be 9 o'clock. Hope I know what to say.
Maybe share something on Yontif for a few minutes.